On Friday, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I don't know Matt Whitaker. I don't know Matt Whitaker. I don't know Matt Whitaker." Really, I don't know Matt Whitaker 4 times after. I can tell you, Matt Whitaker's a great guy. I mean, I know Matt Whitaker. Okay, which lie do you like better? Let's go with the one that sounds, well, at least plausible. I know Matt Whitaker. And we think that's probably true since he met with Matt Whitaker time after time after time in the Oval Office. Okay, who's Whitaker? He's a Trump loyalist. What he believes that is so frightening is that the judiciary in the United States has no right, no power, no authority to say that something that the president does is illegal and unconstitutional. In other words, Donald Trump, as the great authoritarian, has the first word, the last word, and the only word in the government of the United States, according to Matt Whitaker, overruling and trying to blow up the foundational piece of American law and democracy, which is there is judicial review. When the president disobeys and flaunts the Constitution, the Supreme Court can say, no, you can't do that. Matt Whitaker says, yes, Trump can. He's an authoritarian, he's the president, he has semi-dictatorial powers, and he can do whatever he wants, and that man is now the acting Attorney General of the United States. If that's not frightening, what would be? Look, he's called Mueller's investigation a witch hunt. And he has said that Mueller should not do what every investigator knows is the critical piece of an investigation like that, which is follow the money. And Whitaker says, no, don't look at Trump's money. Don't look at his tax return. Don't look at how Russia is funding him. Don't worry about whether Vladimir Putin has something on Trump. He's an apologist, he's an enabler, and he's a destroyer. He's an enabler of Donald Trump. He's an apologist for Donald Trump. He's a destroyer of the rule of law and democracy. He is totally unqualified for this position, and his appointment is unconstitutional. Here's a book I expect he hasn't read recently. Thank you, or ever. We're talking about the powers of the president. He shall have the power to nominate, and then, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, ambassadors and other public ministers and councils, that is to say, cabinet members. But the Congress, and he shall not have the authority to do this on his own. It's an appointment power. It's not an appointment power, it's a nomination power. The appointment power, the authority for this rests with the Congress. Now, Congress may by law, and I'm quoting the Constitution, Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as Congress deems appropriate. So Congress can give the president the right to make certain appointments, and has, but it has not given the president the authority, the right, and the power simply to appoint the Attorney General of the United States without the advice and consent of the Senate. That's unconstitutional. They really should read this book occasionally. It's got a lot of interesting pieces in it. I'm going to conclude, if I might, by sharing with you some of what Alexander Hamilton wrote in the Federalist Papers. Founders had a lot right. They had a lot wrong, but they had a lot right. And he explains why the appointment cannot be done simply by the president, but has to be done with the advice and consent of the Senate. And here's what Hamilton wrote. The president is to nominate, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, those public ministers and councils. Congress may, by law, vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they deem proper in the president alone. To what purpose, then, require the cooperation of the Senate? I answer that the necessity of their concurrence would have a powerful operation. It would be an excellent check upon a spirit of favoritism in the president, and would tend greatly to prevent the appointment of unfit characters from state prejudice, from family connection, from personal attachment, or from a view to popularity. And in addition, it would be an efficacious source of stability in the administration. One last piece from the following Federalist paper written by Hamilton. If by influencing the president, that is in this nomination and appointment power, if by influencing the president we mean restraining him, this is precisely what is intended. And it has been shown, Hamilton wrote, that this restraint would be salutary. And then in the following Federalist paper, Hamilton says, I could write more, and he's writing about the judicial nomination and confirmation process, which we all know how that works. We've all seen it on television. Hamilton says, I don't have to write any more about how the judicial process is supposed to work because I just said in great detail how it's supposed to work for those cabinet members. Advice and consent of the Senate, because it's a fundamental foundation of democracy. We're here to fight for it. I say we're together, we stand together, we will win, and we will continue to resist. Thank you all very much. I have one last note. There are cards being passed out. Join the petition. Go online. Do it here. Do it when you get home. Don't delay. Millions of people are writing the Senate and say, you have a job to do. Do it. Protect us. This is not an authoritarian government. Not yet. You can do something today. Go online. Sign that petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. The next speaker is Jennifer Taub. Jennifer Taub is a law professor and an advocate. She is devoted to making complex legal topics engaging both inside and outside the classroom. Her research and writing focuses on corporate governance, financial market regulations, and white-collar crime. Her advocacy centers on Follow the Money Matters, promoting transparency and opposing corruption. She was a co-founder of the nationwide tax march in April 2017. And also, if you want to find out the truth, you can sometimes catch her on CNN. Yes. Here's Jennifer. Can I make this go higher? Hey, everybody. First, I want to thank Debbie and Rachel for organizing this event. Can we all applaud? Also, I want to thank Jeff Napolitano because I was really cold and he gave me his scarf. Where are you, Jeff? Thank you. And what he doesn't know is I might not give it back. So, how are y'all doing today? Yeah, like me. People keep asking me how I'm doing, and I say, I feel like I've been hit by a truck, but I'm still standing. So, right? Is that where you are? Okay, that's good. We got to keep standing. So, a couple other things. I am so happy to be in America where we can stand up in small towns and on live national television and speak truth to power. And that's because we have a First Amendment. And notwithstanding the leader of this country's attempt to threaten, intimidate, and even encourage violence against the free press, we are still here. And along those lines, I want to draw attention to the fact that there are counter rallies and protesters here, and I'm honored to share this space with them. And we should do that. There's somebody here. Maybe he's joking about it. Now he's wearing a... I'm not sure if he's a counter-protester or he's being ironic, but we have folks who are here, and we should encourage them to stand with us, because that's what we do. We don't resort to violence. I reject it. I want to say unequivocally there should be no whataboutism. I reject all attempts to go to people's homes and pound on their doors, as we've heard. And I don't care who the commentator is. I don't care what they stand for. Years ago, we all joined together and said, Je suis Charlie. Do you remember this? Okay, that's who we are, that's why we're here, and that's in particular why this administration is so absolutely dangerous. Okay, so let's get down to why we're here to protect Mueller. So my mood last night can be encapsulated by this. Maybe it should be, I don't know, on a t-shirt, but what I felt was this. I dreamed of an avocado toast future, and all I got was a banana republic. So let's talk about the dream, and then I'm going to talk about the banana republic, where we are. So we have a progressive dream, and we are on our way. Don't let anyone rain on our parade. We had a huge blue wave on Tuesday. By we, I'm speaking because I'm a member of the Democratic Party, gained back more seats in the House than we have since Watergate. Just like you, there was that moment on Tuesday night when I freaked out. PTSD, I thought maybe we wouldn't take back the House. And then I got paranoid when Fox News announced that we were probably going to take back the House and told everybody, stand in line, it's a hoax, keep voting, because the polls had not closed. But here's the thing, not only did we take back a record number of seats in the House, but the votes are still being counted. And for Christ's sake, it should not be a controversial thing to say, count every vote. And that's happening right now in Arizona, and Georgia, and Florida. And by the way, my friend who I see here, John Bonifaz, I don't know if he's speaking today, he will be, but he's going to talk about the fact I'm stealing, where are you, John? There. He's lectured me on this, but on this voting piece, we have 3 types of voting, John tells me. There's faith-based, there's real voting in 2 states where they actually routinely conduct audits, have, paper ballots, and make sure that the election results are accurate, right? And then they have, I don't know, what is the other one? Faith-based voting? What's your third one?
Yeah.
So the next one is semi-evidence-based voting, where we have a paper trail, right? But they don't really, we're not fully sure, we don't audit the results. And then finally we have what he calls
I'll do photos. Do you want to do photos? Yeah. Okay.
Faith-based voting. And that's in states where we have it's states and also in certain areas within states where we have no paper trails. So one of the most important things with making sure we have democratic institutions in this country, that we protect the rule of law, we protect our First Amendment rights, is to protect our voting rights. That is absolutely fundamental. And I want to give a shout out to John, because everything he has ever done since he got out of law school has been about protecting the franchised to vote. And I'm really honored to work with him. Okay, so let's get back to protecting Mueller and what a dangerous thing it is that Matt Whitaker was appointed. Why was Matt Whitaker unconstitutionally appointed? The answer is because he is a hired gun for the president to try to undermine and shut down any investigation by the Department of Justice, whether it's Mueller or in the Southern District of New York, to go against Trump, his family, and any of his allies for the genuinely serious alleged crimes that they have committed. That's why he was hired, period. And unlike Donald Trump, who claims he doesn't know Matt Whitaker, I know Matt Whitaker. You do? I do know Matt Whitaker, sort of. The other day when I saw he was appointed, I had never really thought I'd heard his name, but just for the hell of it, I Googled and found out that the very first time I was ever on CNN, it was with Matt Whitaker. I was here in Amherst at one of these flash studios that was run by UMass. He was obviously at a studio in Iowa, and then the newscaster, the anchor, was in DC. And I had never done live television, and it was 2 days after the New York Times had broken the story about Don Jr., Paul Manafort, and Jared Kushner, members of the Trump campaign, having met during the campaign, right? Having met in June of 2016 with Russian nationals. And when the story first broke, it kind of trickled out. So when the story first broke, no one knew of Don Jr.'s emails that tell us now that he knew he was meeting with a Kremlin-linked lawyer. There's a lot of pieces missing. All we knew when we went on air and that morning of July 10th, 2017, a year later, was that this meeting had transpired and that supposedly the purpose was to get dirt on Hillary Clinton, but all they ended up maybe talking about was the Russian adoption. And what we had been told so far is Don Jr. had absolutely no idea, even now, that the folks there were Russian nationals. He apparently he went to the meeting without really knowing much of, he knew the agenda was to maybe find out dirt on Hillary, but he claims that neither Paul Manafort or Jared Kushner knew what the meeting was about. They just showed up without knowing the agenda or who was there. This is what we knew when we went on air. I'm in the studio with this little earpiece. I can see nobody at all, but I can hear this moron defending Don Jr. And I'm, you know, if you've ever done TV, you're super scared that you're going to be like your normal self and wave your hands around and make weird faces. So I'm just sitting there with that. I'm surprised to see. I was totally freaked out, thought I was going to throw up and very nervous, but I have this serene look on my face going, and occasionally a side eye, and then finally I just start interrupting the guy because I'm like, you're crazy. You would advise someone to take this meeting? This is not credible. And I kind of went down the list of kind of anticipating what was going to happen next. So he was full on supporting Donald Trump at that time. And within hours, the emails leaked. So I got a couple questions about this Matt Whitaker, who is now apparently our acting Attorney General of the United States. What did he know, and when did he know it? Was he just trying to suck up to the Trump administration, showing up on TV and looking the part to try to get a job, like he's telling folks? Or had he actually also had some information? We don't know at that point. But at some point, not just me and others, but at some point Donald Trump knew Whitaker. What we know now from the New York Times, again, these stories start to trickle out, what we know now from late night reporting is that he met several times with Trump. He was gunning, so after he showed off on television, he gets this job working as the chief of staff for Jeff Sessions, who's what used to be our attorney general, until Wednesday, right? Remember him? Terrible guy, but did one thing right, recused himself from interfering in this Mueller investigation of the president's ties to Russia. Okay, so chief of staff Matt Whitaker was gunning for Jeff Sessions' job, so now we know that he was having private meetings with Trump in the White House and his allies. We also know not only was he gunning, first he was gunning for to get directly in charge of the Mueller investigation by getting Rod Rosenstein's job, but what he was doing, the first thing he was doing before he was trying to take over the Mueller investigation, is he was encouraging the president to investigate Hillary Clinton. He was, and believe it or not, what we're hearing in the reporting is Jeff Sessions told Trump, don't do that. Don't politicize the Department of Justice. But there was Matt Whitaker, we know Matt Whitaker, encouraging Trump. Okay, so there's also more. What do you know about Matt Whitaker? Turns out that he was a spokesperson and on the board of advisors for a scam company that was just shut down by the Federal Trade Commission that paid like God knows tens of millions of dollars in fines just this past year, 2017 or 2018. And here's what's even crazier. Are you ready for crazy? The FBI is investigating him right now. Wait a minute, my head is hurting. Who supervises the FBI? The Attorney General. He still has not announced whether he's going to recuse himself from his own flippin' investigation. From what I read in the Twitter sphere, you're going to love this if you like a little schadenfreude on your Saturday morning. This is just the beginning for Whitaker. Okay, so I think this is not just the beginning for his troubles, but it might be the end. I don't think he's going to be able to be acting Attorney General. I think John's probably going to talk about some actions his organization is taking toward this. I cannot see Whitaker lasting. And if he stays, I cannot see our democracy lasting. He must step down. Okay. So what? I know I'm talking too long, but are you still listening? Okay. So here's the other story. Why do we care so damn much about the Mueller investigation? Why do we care? Why does Trump care? Why does Matt Whitaker care? I know there's that nice jacket that says, "I don't care, do you?" Well, guess what? Trump cares about this. And here's why. Mueller has been incredibly successful. In fact, he is a victim of his own success to some degree, because it's so annoying. People say, let's see what Mueller finds out. Well, hello, let's talk about what he has already accomplished. Paul Manafort, the chairman of Trump's campaign, not only was convicted by a jury on many federal criminal offenses, but he also pleaded guilty to other charges. He is going to be sentenced. This is the campaign chairman of the President of the United States of America. But that's not all. The deputy campaign chairman, Rick Gates, who went on beyond the campaign to be the deputy head of the inaugural committee, has also pleaded guilty to federal offenses and will also be sentenced. Thank you, Mueller. But there's more. And I'm now just talking about the Mueller investigation on people associated with Trump. We also have George Papadopoulos, who was the one-time foreign policy advisor for the Trump campaign, has also pleaded guilty, and he's actually been sentenced. And there's more. Thank you, Mueller. Remember this, Michael Flynn, who worked in this president's administration in the Trump White House as his national security advisor, has also pleaded guilty to federal offenses and will soon be sentenced. But there's more. Spin-offs from the Mueller investigation, which in fact may be the most important ones. There are many different federal jurisdictions, including the Southern District of New York, where the Trump's own personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, as you know, has pleaded guilty to several criminal offenses, two of which relate to criminal felonious campaign finance violations. And when he pleaded guilty to them, remember in his plea deal, he implicated the President of the United States. And what we found out just yesterday? Just yesterday, in the most blockbuster news story that the Wall Street Journal has ever broken, making me maybe think I will renew my subscription, but no, I'm still mad at the editorial board. Anyway, the reporters are great, but this story, unbelievably, builds on that and gives evidence that right now, the federal prosecutors in New York have enough information about Trump's involvement in the payoffs to Stormy Daniels and why am I forgetting her name? Karen McDougal. They have enough information about his coordination with the head of the National Enquirer, with his work with his own accountant, Alan Weisselberg, who has flipped, and so on. There's enough evidence right now that if he were not the President of the United States, Trump would be indicted. Period. I cannot emphasize how important this article is in the Wall Street Journal. I am not being hyperbolic. Former federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York were on the cable news shows, two people who I respect tremendously, and they absolutely said, this is enough information, if true, what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. The Wall Street Journal, you know, the bastion of left-wing anarchy. What the Wall Street Journal is reporting, they interviewed 36 sources. If what they are saying is true, Trump would be indicted if he were not a sitting president. This is just a fact. This is where we are. But here's the thing, and I'm almost gonna wrap this up. What worries us is that this lawless president is known for pardoning people, for firing people, for hiring people like Whitaker, right? And that he may just shut down all of these federal investigations. He might just try to prevent these indictments or just pardon everybody, including himself, right? But I got some news for you. The states. New York. You know that song, if you can't make it there, you can't make it anywhere? Well, guess what? There are two women. One, Barbara Underwood, who is the current state attorney general for New York, and she's about to be replaced by the newly elected Tish James. People, when I need to talk myself off to the ledge, I whisper the words over and over, Tish James. Tish James. Repeat after me. Tish James. Tish James. Here's the deal. There are many potential state criminal charges to still be brought against Donald Trump and his family related to just alone the Trump Charitable Foundation, but also, I'm sure, the tax return issues. Now, don't we still have the same problems? No, we don't. A president cannot pardon for state criminal offenses. Now, that means Don Jr., look out. That means Ivanka and Eric, look out, because you are being investigated. This is a fact. But what about Trump himself? Well, there is no precedent yet on whether a state criminal, the state can prosecute a sitting president. There's neither precedent in the courts nor is there a policy. States have indicted their own governors. We know this. We just don't know whether a state would dare to indict a sitting president. But you know what I have to say? Tish James. Repeat after me. Tish James. Tish James. Okay, love you guys. Bye.